And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. I refuse to go into the office after yesterday's show, but today is Forgiving Friday. We're going to talk about possibly The Voice, a couple of people in music around the area. We might get to it, we might not. The 5 days at Memorial, fascinating topic. I don't know if we'll get to it yet today. Football fights. There was a video that you wanted to tell me about. I have not seen it yet. We're going to get you into the weekend. Before we start doing that, Mark, how are you feeling today?
I am just doing some last-minute research, and I am good.
I was going to say, you did not have the video up on your screen.
I was reading as fast as I could, and I'm not a fast reader. No, I'll tell you how I'm doing today. Let me tell. Have you ever had an experience like this? I'm very proud of myself.
Okay.
You've heard of DVD players. You don't own one, but you know what they are.
I absolutely, yes, I do.
Well, you can buy them now for like $40. They're not expensive things, but mine wouldn't work. And I thought that the battery in the remote was just dead. So I actually got a new one out of the pack, put it in, and it didn't work. Okay. So I'm like, oh, well, I have broken the remote control because like every other remote control, it has bounced off the floor a dozen times. Remote controls take a lot of damage.
Sure.
So I go buy a new one. And it's in the box, and I still have the receipt, and everything's ready. And I said, you know what? Before I open this new box, maybe I should get another new battery out because maybe that battery was just a dud.
Right.
I put in the new battery, and sure enough, it worked. And now I have this perfectly packaged. I have the receipt. I can take it back. I probably saved $39, but I really feel proud of myself.
No, so you had a faulty battery in the pack then?
Yep. I had a faulty battery in the pack. Because the old one, it was just dying. You know, when you can tell your remote's dying and you got to keep hitting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, all right. And then, but also, the remote controls, it's like your phone. They take some abuse. You move, it falls off your lap, it crashes. They are abused objects. So anyway,
without a doubt.
So I'm proud of myself. I saved $40.
Tell me about this video, because this was something that you had brought up. You had texted me about it, about just football fans and fights, and tell me about this because it's a local story, but it's also a topical story.
Well, we got a couple there. Yeah, like at the Penn State Auburn game, if you Google, there is just a brawl in the crowd. And I think it's just Auburn fans, and what I read was they attributed to the fact that Auburn's not very good. They hate the new coach. They are 2-1, but they had two soft wins, and then they got crushed by Penn State. I think they lost by 29. At the same point, I'm getting updates on the story as it goes. There's an announcement on the Shamokin Athletics. It's a Shamokin Facebook page. I think it's Shamokin Athletics that students are not allowed to walk around at the football game tonight. They have another home football game because back on the 9th, there was you want to call it a brawl. They referred to it as it cited a riot, whatever. So, and there is another local school, which I don't know if we should mention right now because we're just getting confirmation on this, but they have encouraged kids to stay in the bleachers and not walk around in groups. So the question of course, the meat and potatoes of every, post online is the comments, everybody knows that. So one of the statements is there's always been fights at football games. And the question is, are they getting worse? Are they more prevalent? Or are we just more sensitive and cracking down? I don't know. So what is your experience with violence at football games when you were a youth?
I just think a lot of this stuff, it was never caught on film. You never had to worry about other people seeing it. And so I think a football fight that happened in 1995, the odds of another community seeing it, the odds of it being a disgrace or basically going outside of that bubble, it just didn't exist. And so my personal opinion of this is I don't think anything different is happening. I've seen fights at football games. I'm not going to say I've been in fights at football games.
I was going to ask that.
I have certainly been a part of the solution during fights at football games. So if you call that being like in the thick of it, I guess that's fair to say. But again, I think there were fights at football games in 1980. I think there were fights in football games in 2000, and I think there's fights in football games in 2022. So
That's a very
I just
good
think
point.
the difference now is administrations and the people in charge have this fear of other people seeing what happened because of social media and because everything is filmed now.
And you're right. Now that if you ask someone who's been to, whether it's Auburn or Penn State or anyone,
Right.
that if you ask people that they're like, oh yeah, I've seen fights in the bleachers, I've seen fights in, so yeah, you're probably right. The only difference is the video, and that everyone has a video camera in their pocket.
Yeah, and just liability. We've just become a country where the first question is, am I liable? And I think if you're a school administrator, if you're someone at the facility that's in charge, if you're an AD, whatever the position is, I just think the first question is this going to come back to haunt me somehow? And so anything that stops me from taking on personal responsibility of somebody else, I'm going to do it. And if that means telling students that they have to stay in their section, so be it, because I'm not getting the blame for this.
No,
I think
that makes sense.
That in my opinion. And here's the thing. I think it's a little overdone, but I'm not blaming anybody because I don't have the solution for it in the world that we live in. If people are going to be held responsible for the actions of others, then I don't know what else to do other than try to negate other people doing stupid things.
No, I'm with you. I am with you.
So,
all right. That's all I got on that. I think you're right.
Let's mention this because I do want to mention it. We have some local stuff with music going on. There is someone formerly from the Williamsport area, Morgan Miles. She was on The Voice. My understanding, she was the first person to perform. You and I actually listened to it. She crushed a performance of Hallelujah on The Voice. All four chairs spun around. Really, really neat stuff to see. We just had Bean. He did American Idol last fall, I think. Has it been a full year?
I think it was longer than that now.
Longer than that now. So it's always neat when someone local comes on. There's also a female contestant from State College who is like, I don't want to say she's an unknown because obviously now, being on The Voice, but she's not like, she doesn't have a huge social media following. She's very organic would be how I would describe her. Participating on the show. So pretty neat. Two people in our coverage area making their voices heard at The Voice.
Yeah, and they all have their little niche. But
yeah.
The blind audition with the chairs spinning around was a brilliant idea, whoever came up with that.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite.
Yes.
I don't like watching the actual competition, but the early blind audition and waiting to see who turns and who doesn't, and that is by far maybe my favorite part.
How about the people who kind of get halfway through and haven't had one spin, and you can just, even when you get one early spin and you're through. So It just the relief, you can almost see it off the people. And so anyway, yeah, it is that little gimmicky thing that really, really works.
It is. And then another neat thing, Bean, again, another local artist just on American Idol, and Dylan Rockoff, who we've had on the show before, they actually just worked together. They're going to be releasing a song as well. So pretty neat to see the two hook up. It's just, I don't know if anyone would ever picture Williamsport being this, singing. Like when you think of Nashville, you think of New Orleans, you think of Vegas, you think of California, LA. I think it's a really neat thing what's happening right now, kind of in North Central Pennsylvania and kind of the backwoods and kind of the development up through. Because I know a lot of them claim, Bean said he's from Boston and Rockoff lives in Nashville right now, and Morgan Miles obviously lives in Nashville right now. But if you go deeper into their roots, if you really go back to where they're from, they're all from this little pocket in Pennsylvania, and it's pretty neat to see.
I assume Bean has stayed in Boston since his
it's a good question. I would assume so. I mean, I'm still curious. It would be neat to interview a Bean or a Morgan Miles after these competitions to just, how normal is it? Difficult to go back to normal life? How normal is life after the competition? Is there a letdown after the competition? What are the next steps? Whose phone calls do you take and which ones do you turn down? It would be neat to interview Bean now, almost more so than when he was in the thick of the competition, to just see the other side of it.
Does he take your phone call?
I don't know. Probably not. He might take some people that I know's phone call, but I don't think he would take my phone.
Not
yet. Not yet. And you know what? He shouldn't, to be completely honest. I don't think he should take my phone call, for being honest.
I tell you, you're right. Now that it's over, is there a letdown or is there a relief? Because after a while, there's probably a grind to it, and you're just like, listen, I'd love to win. If I'm not going to win, I just want to get back to life. Yeah,
and is it hard? Is it hard going back to that normalcy? Because, like, to your point, there's probably a part of you that for a little bit is kind of like, boy, like, this is a lot. Like, I wish it was a normal Tuesday again. But on the flip side, like, that second normal Tuesday or that third normal Tuesday, like, all of a sudden, is it kind of like, was that it? Is that? And so I don't know. Musicianship is just such a grind too. I mean, it never, you think you have it, and then it's more of a grind, and it's never quite there. And, I mean, to make it in music, is there really like a chart? I feel like there's not like I feel like once you're there, it's what's the next. I feel like the climb never really stops in music.
No, I tell you, there's one that I saw that one of the quickest, like, overnight sensations who didn't do the grind was Sam Kinison, the comedian. If you ever see his thing, he got a spot. Was it Rodney Dangerfield's? He was looking, I don't know, somewhere. He didn't do that where he did 100 shows in 120 days and he was sleeping in flea bag motels trying to make it. He was just kind of this funny guy. I think he might even have been a bouncer. And he was funny enough, and they put him in the thing. He went up and he had to do like 7 minutes, and he killed it. Okay. And all of a sudden, like, somebody wanted to hire him. Because I remember in the interview, he said something about, I don't know. And the other people like, listen, we've been working our whole lives for this. You just worked 7 minutes. Like, you're going to take it. So anyway, but yes, the Morgan Miles story, from just a couple minutes I've seen, she was on the road. What'd she say? 200 days last year. Like, she has been working the grind.
It's a lot. And again, it's just, and I think she said she was 35 now. She's 35. that she's been doing this since she was 18. And so it is, I think they moved to Nashville right out of high school. So you're talking, she's coming up on 2 decades worth of, like, grinding to try to, get to it and get to where she wants to be. But that's the thing, like, do you ever get there with music? Because I feel like even when you make it, it's the next album, the next tour, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. It's people don't quit. People don't quit the music industry. No,
they do not. I didn't know there's some things here going around. Pennsylvania among top 5 for certain cartoons, like most watched. Did you see this at all? Penn Live released it. No. They went through and they rated, like, TV shows and where they're the most watched. Pennsylvania was top 5 for Scooby-Doo. So out of all the cartoons, that seems to be the one that's related to Pennsylvania.
Like now or ever?
I think now, according to this, they basically it's like ratings and, like, who's watching what, because now you can tell who's watching everything essentially. Pennsylvania was top 5 for Scooby-Doo.
Here's my ignorant question. They're not still making new Scooby-Doos, are they?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm assuming these are all the reruns that we saw when we were kids.
When you're a kid, because you had 3 kids, what did they watch? Did they watch, like, old Hanna-Barbera like stuff, or okay? No,
there was the new, like, the regular show, Total Drama Island, iCarly, Drake and Josh.
So there's this is not, like, off topic, but I'm curious of your opinion on this. I have 2 nieces now. They're both under the age of 5. One's 4 now, and the other one will be 2. There was this idea, like, when I was growing up, when my sister was growing up, you kind of watched the stuff that the people before you watched. So I watched a lot of the cartoons that my parents watched. My sister and basically has said they don't watch any of the stuff that she watched because there's so much now. So they're watching all these, they're watching Bluey, they're watching there's this like younger Spider-Man thing. They're watching all the things today. They watched Coco Melon when they were younger, but they don't watch any of like the old Tom and Jerry's, the old Disney stuff, it's all the new Disney stuff and the new cartoons. To me, they're gonna be the first generation that doesn't watch what the parents or the generation before them watch.